I recently visited the city of Venice, Florida, and spent a lot of time walking on Venice Avenue. Venice is a planned city, and for the most part, the plan was implemented as designed, with Venice Avenue slated as the main commercial street. Today, Venice Avenue is the center of activity and draws a lot of foot traffic. How cities design their main streets interests me very much, so I can't just simply enjoy a vacation. I'm always thinking about the little engineering details of streets that I visit, and thought a video would be a good way to compile all my thoughts. Of course, I had the idea to make this video on the day that I was leaving, so most of the clips are early morning when the street is nearly empty. So thanks to my dad for getting some extra videos showing that people do actually exist here, but at least we'll be able to focus on the infrastructure without all those pesky pedestrians in the way. Let's start by talking about the roadway. Venice Ave has two vehicle lanes in each direction with parallel parking along the curb. Intersections within the commercial district are all-way stop controlled, and the two intersections at either end have traffic signals. Streets that have multiple lanes in each direction, especially in pedestrian-focused areas, generally are not great from a safety perspective. However, when traffic starts building in the afternoon, both lanes are usually moving slowly enough and largely in compliance with the 20-mile-per-hour speed limit that it doesn't feel that unsafe. Where this becomes a problem, though, is at the mid-block crosswalks. At these locations, the crosswalks are subject to what's called the multiple threat conflict, which means that one driver stopping for a pedestrian may block the view of that pedestrian for the driver in the other lane, and they may not know that they have to stop. Because of this, the city has installed flashing warning lights within the roadway that activate when a pedestrian is crossing. With the roadway having multiple lanes and the median, the intersections are extremely wide. I find multi-lane stop-controlled intersections to be especially chaotic compared to single-lane approaches, and the increased size of the intersection means that vehicles take longer to clear it, causing more delay for everyone. It's very likely that these intersections meet the warrants for installing a traffic signal, but I don't think that that's the solution in this area. Plus, any confusion this intersection creates forces people to slow down. A very prominent feature of Venice Avenue is the central median, and it serves many useful functions. It physically narrows the road to provide traffic calming for vehicles, it creates a pedestrian refuge at the mid-block crossings, and it truly beautifies the street. In a way, it makes each half of Venice Avenue feel like its own enclosed area, especially with the height of the trees, which makes the street almost feel like a courtyard. Yet you can still see the other side of the street through the median, so the whole commercial district feels accessible. Now imagine that there were no plantings in the median, or it was just more asphalt. The street would feel completely different. Over at the eastern end of Venice Avenue, I really don't have much to say. This is the intersection with the Tamiami Trail, and it's just your textbook definition of a strode, and a generally unpleasant place to be. I don't think John Nolan had this in his plan for the city, and I would hope that the front door to the Venice Avenue commercial district could be redesigned better. Speaking of things that could be redesigned better, let's talk about the bike infrastructure on Venice Avenue. Simply put, it's non-existent. The outermost lane on Venice Ave has a sharrow, but as we know, sometimes that's worse than doing nothing at all. The 20-mile-per-hour speed limit and heavier traffic in the afternoon means that people are traveling more slowly overall, but I definitely wouldn't call this an all ages and abilities bike facility. In the city of Venice, biking on the sidewalk is actually allowed. However, Venice Ave and the parallel streets are specifically excluded as a no sidewalk biking zone due to the pedestrian traffic, which I do agree with. Harbor Drive, which runs perpendicular to and intersects with Venice Avenue on the west end, actually has a pretty decent buffered bike lane that's continuous for over a mile. But then it drops out one block from Venice Ave to make room for an additional vehicle lane. East of the Tamiami Trail is the Venice Ave Bridge, which is a critical link across the canal and to the Legacy Trail, which is a rail trail that runs all the way up to Sarasota. However, your two options for crossing the bridge are dismounting and walking on a very narrow sidewalk, or biking in heavy mixed traffic. The next closest bridge that has a multi-use trail over it adds about a 7-mile detour. One potential solution for bike safety on Venice Ave could be a pilot project to convert the outermost travel lane into a dedicated bike lane. Or better yet, flip the parallel parking into the outer lane and create a parking protected bike lane along the curb. Not only would this create a dedicated bike facility along a very popular street, but by reducing the number of vehicle lanes in each direction from 2 to 1, it would make the traffic operations at intersections a lot simpler and predictable, especially for pedestrians, although it would likely increase congestion. One of the fun things about engineering is that there are certain solutions that can truly be copy and pasted from one city to another, such as curb extensions or raised crosswalks. But cities will often have a few unique things about them that require some local knowledge when designing infrastructure. In Venice, the farmers market closes Venice Ave to cars each Saturday to open the street to pedestrians and provide space for market stalls. If Venice Ave were reconstructed with a solution such as sidewalk level bike lanes, which would narrow the curb-to-curb width of the roadway, that would severely restrict the amount of space to set up the farmers market compared to a paint-only bike lane solution. Now, I'm not saying that's a good reason to not include protected bike lanes on Venice Ave. However, it's definitely something that would come up in local conversation if it were proposed, and something that would need to be taken into consideration by the city when coming up with a design. Finally, and most importantly, let's talk about the pedestrian realm. Based on my rough shoe measurements, the sidewalk is about 8 feet wide, and the furnishing zone, the space between the sidewalk and the road, is about 6 feet wide. These sidewalks felt very comfortable to walk on, they're in good condition, and 8 feet is pretty decent for a medium-density commercial area like this. Obviously, it wouldn't hurt to go wider if you had the space, but even when the sidewalks got busy at night, I never really encountered any pedestrian traffic jams. The furnishing zone is what really sells Venice Ave, though, and ensures that the sidewalk is not just a way to walk down the street, but a place itself. It's got benches, trees, bike racks, trash cans, outdoor dining. Did I mention benches? There are so many places to sit along Venice Ave. Being a city with a slightly older demographic, the combination of benches, shade trees, and public restrooms are huge for ensuring an accessible pedestrian experience that allows people to get where they're going while being able to take breaks along the way. Another cool feature of the sidewalks here are the arcaded sections, where the sidewalk passes underneath a building overhang. Not only do these provide shelter from the rain or sun, but they allow for a unique outdoor dining experience. And what better way to entice people into your restaurant than to have them pass between tables full of food? When pedestrians want to cross the street, the crosswalks are relatively okay, given that it's still 2 lanes in each direction. Curb extensions are provided at both the flashing mid-block crosswalks and at the stop-controlled intersections, which shorten the crossing distance and make pedestrians more visible to oncoming drivers. Curb extensions are sometimes a little tough to get installed because the new curb interrupts stormwater drainage along the existing gutter. So I really liked this solution that the city chose, which was to install a trench drain along the existing curb to allow stormwater to pass behind the curb extension without needing to install a new drain. At the signalized intersections, however, the pedestrian crossings aren't as fun. They're very long because of the multiple vehicle lanes and medians, and the walk signal is concurrent with vehicles, meaning that cars can turn over the crosswalk while you're crossing. If shrinking the size of the intersection isn't feasible, then some easy low-cost solutions include making the vehicle turn lanes protected only, meaning that they would have a red arrow when a pedestrian is crossing, or adding a leading pedestrian interval to the walk signal, so that pedestrians can get a head start into the crosswalk before cars start moving. And to close this out, just 1 block away is Venice City Hall, and how great is it to see a huge rain garden surrounding the whole building? Overall, I found Venice Avenue to be a really special place to visit, and I think that a few easy safety fixes could really go a long way in making the street the best that it can be.